You there, Jaimee?
I am. I'm just making sure you guys have the anticipation waiting for these burning questions. So let's get straight into it. Gowie, I think obviously there's been so much talk about this Patrick Reed and whether or not he cheated, and I was quite interested to see that Rory McIlroy came out and said he doesn't think that he is a cheat and that we just love to hate the polarising Masters champion. But I wanted to get your thoughts, especially on Patrick's comment when he said if you intentionally try to do something, then it's considered cheating, but if you're not intentionally doing something, it's just considered a breach of rule, obviously, because when he was flicking the sand. What are your thoughts on his comment?
Yeah, well, his comment's right. Was he intentionally doing it? We don't know, but it looked like he intentionally was doing it. There's one thing I do know, as a golfer growing up, and he's a professional now, that any time you're around sand, you can't ground the golf club. So when you're in a bunker, you can't put the club on the ground. He was in a waste area, but you train for years never to put your club on the ground. So why did he have his club grounded all the way down there? You watch majority of the players that will walk in there, and this is where the flawed piece is. They'll keep the club up in their hand. They won't put it down there. They'll swing up high so they don't touch the sand.
Why didn't he alert an official?
There you go. He didn't actually...
Like, they all know the rules, and as soon as he did that, he should have said, well, you know what, I'm uncomfortable with what just occurred. I should let someone know, and they could decide there and then.
Yeah, for me, flat out, it's cheating. We might have the best camera angles, and we've got all the cameras there.
Yeah.
He's touched the sand not just once; he's touched it twice.
Can you tell the story that Rex was telling us about his golf club cover, Patrick Reed?
Yeah, his golf club cover a couple of years ago on the Ryder Cup. He was a real linchpin to them winning the cup maybe 4 or 6 years ago, whatever it was. And he made himself a head cover. Journalist called him Captain America. He's gone with it, and he's made his own covers with Captain America on it.
Oh, dear.
Well, Gowie, you know these players, but how are the US team handling all of this? Because we've seen Cameron Smith has said Patrick Reed will no longer look at him in the eye after calling him out a cheat. And he's kind of put them in a tough situation, because if they try and defend him, they're effectively defending a cheat, which then might look bad for the team's morale and their standards.
Yeah, no, they've stayed away from it very well in the media this week. Tigers addressed it early, and the players then, you've seen Justin Thomas and a few of them, make fun of it. When they're in a practice round, he scraped the sand and he said, is this how you did it, Patrick? And made light of it. And that's the only thing you can do, because as soon as they step out of this team arena, which we don't play in team events all year, they know he's a cheat. So they won't be very happy with that. And it sticks, as Rex Hogger just said, it sticks with you for the rest of your life.
And just before we move on, still on the golf, so the internationals, obviously the massive underdogs here. What is it that they have to do to get the win?
Well, they need a couple of things. They need to play extremely well. They need to get every green light getting to the golf course. Everything has to go their way this week to win.
Right.
The market is correct. They are the best players, the US team. But there's a couple of things in our favour. Jet lag for those guys, the Americans getting over it. The golf course is a big advantage, but the next big advantage that we need is the crowd. It needs to be a Parramatta home game.
A Parramatta at Bankwest Stadium.
Bankwest Stadium. There you go.
Yeah, right. It's semi-final too.
You thought I was going to get in this whole program without putting Parramatta in, didn't you?
How far can the crowd go, Gowie, in terms of sledging?
Yeah, deep.
They can.
Yeah,
they should.
Until they're escorted out of the place.
They were quiet yesterday. I was telling the boys about, I was on the 6th tee and the internationals head off and there was just silence. And I'm like, come on.
Jimmy yelled out.
I yelled out.
And I turned around to look to see who was yelling out. It was Jay Smith. Come on, guys.
Yeah, it was a practice round. It'll just get a little bit higher, and it'll get, more and more people will get on it. All the press, the Australian Ben Everell and Evan Priest, they've been throwing it out there. We've got to get them pumped up. They have to be pumped up, to play, and it's going to give it to the players that, Joaquin Neiman and guys like that. They're just going to get more and more ammo.
Like in a football team, you always look for your leader to stand up in the big moment. And we've heard Adam Scott be the one. Is he the leader in the international side, or is there another player that can pump up the guys and get them all going?
Yeah, there's three. Adam Scott is the standout. He's up on podium one, but the other two that are level are Oosthausen and Mark Leishman.
Yeah, right.
They are. Mark Leishman is just such a great guy, and all of them are great guys. But Louis Oosttown, they're quietly spoken. But you've seen them this week. They've stood up. They've become boisterous. Even Cameron Smith has become boisterous. They're really respectful people, but they want to win. They really want to win, and that's what Ernie Earls has instilled in them over the last 12 months. Getting together.
Well, I'm out there on the course today. I'm going to get vocal.
I need you to, Jimmy.
Okay. So am I.
Yeah,
I can't wait.
All right. Yes, Jaimee?
Jimmy, go and sledge Patrick Reed and see how that hand works out. But, Laurie, we'll just go over to you, and you've obviously had to speak about this quite a bit because you are part of the NRL's Indigenous Advisory Group, and I just wanted to talk about the idea that you guys are considering dumping the national anthem from the ceremony at next year's All-Stars match. It's obviously a simmering and controversial issue, and it has been spoken about for quite some time now. I just wanted to know, is this really the way that we should be heading, abolishing the anthem?
Well, I think you have to take everyone's opinion into consideration, and with the Indigenous All-Stars players, they believe that it doesn't represent who they are. It's not a test match. It's not an NRL grand final. The game was put on for people to celebrate Indigenous culture, and they are saying that it doesn't represent who they are, and I think you need to consider that. The NRL Commission, in the end, will be the ones that decide whether they play the anthem before that game. I don't see whether it would be a massive issue not to play it before the Indigenous All-Stars game, but I'd recognise it would be a massive issue if you didn't play it before a test match or a grand final or a state of origin or some big event like that.
Well, we've had a lot of text messages this morning, and there's... Again, it's a polarising issue, and they're split probably 50-50. People saying, within their rights. Other people saying, how dare they do that? And that'll be interesting. The Australian Rugby League Commission will have another meeting. You're on that commission. Have another Indigenous Council, we'll have another meeting in a month's time, and that'll be discussed in greater detail then. Yeah,
it was flagged. We had a meeting on Monday, so that was flagged. Obviously, the players had a camp on the weekend. So that feedback came to us to consider and put forward a submission. And then go from there. But again, it's a discussion worthwhile having.
Thanks, Jaimee.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy the golf.